A raging storm led Olivia Gray straight into the arms of Eli Miller, a rugged farmer with a guarded heart. She was running from a life she no longer wanted. He never expected his quiet world to change. But when her past comes knocking, will love be enough to make her stay? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The sky turned an angry shade of gray as Eli Miller finished securing the last of his equipment in the barn. At 42, he'd weathered enough storms to know this one would be bad. His weathered hands, strong from years of working the land, latched the barn door just as the first heavy drops began to fall. "Come on, Rusty," he called to his old border collie. "Let's get inside before we're soaked to the bone." The dog trotted, obediently at his heels, as they made their way toward the two-story farmhouse that had been in the Miller family for 3 generations. The white paint was peeling in places, and the porch steps creaked, but to Eli it was home, the only home he'd ever known or wanted. Lightning cracked across the sky, followed almost immediately by a boom of thunder that shook the windows. Rusty whimpered, pressing against Eli's leg. "It's all right, boy," Eli said, crouching to scratch behind the dog's ears. "Just Mother Nature putting on a show." As the rain began to pound against the roof, Eli set about making dinner, a simple stew that would warm him through the cold. Night ahead. The radio crackled with warnings about flash floods and downed power lines. He'd checked his generator earlier, knowing how often the power went out during storms like this. While the stew simmered, Eli stood at the kitchen window, watching sheets of rain turn his fields into swimming pools. He thought of the corn he'd planted last week, hoping the deluge wouldn't wash away the seeds. Farming was always a gamble, a constant battle against forces he couldn't control. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. "Right. On schedule," Eli muttered, reaching for the flashlight he kept in the drawer by the sink. He was about to light some candles when a sound caught his attention, something between a crash and a thud coming from the barn. Probably just some equipment he hadn't secured properly. With a sigh, Eli pulled on his raincoat and boots. "Stay here, Rusty," he ordered. The dog looked relieved not to have to venture out into the storm. The short distance to the barn felt like a mile as Eli battled against wind and rain. By the time he reached the barn door, he was soaked despite the raincoat. He fumbled with the latch, finally pushing the door open against the force of the wind. Inside, the barn was dark and smelled of hay and animals. Eli swept his flashlight beam across the interior, looking for whatever had fallen. Everything seemed in place until the light caught something unexpected, a splash of color against the hay bales at the far end. Eli moved closer, and his heart nearly stopped. A woman lay crumpled on the hay, her clothes soaked through, her dark hair plastered against her pale face. For a terrible moment he thought she might be dead, but then he saw the slight rise and fall of her chest. "Hey!" he said, kneeling beside her. "Can you hear me?" She didn't respond. A small gash on her forehead had left a trail of blood down the side of her face. Eli touched her hand. It was ice cold. Without hesitation, he scooped her up in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, fragile feeling against his broad chest. How in the world had she ended up in his barn? The nearest neighbor was 5 miles away, and he hadn't heard a car. Questions would have to wait. Right now, she needed warmth and medical attention. The journey back to the house was even harder with the woman in his arms. By the time Eli kicked open the front door, they were both drenched to the skin. Rusty circled anxiously as Eli laid the woman gently on his couch. "It's okay, Rusty," Eli assured the dog. "She needs our help." Working quickly, Eli gathered blankets, towels, and the first aid kit. He gently dabbed at the cut on her forehead, not deep enough for stitches, thankfully. He hesitated when he realized her clothes were soaked through. She needed dry clothes, but Eli settled for wrapping her in warm blankets, then building a fire in the fireplace. Only when the flames were crackling did he allow himself to really look at her. She was beautiful, even pale, and unconscious. Her face had a delicate quality, high cheekbones, perfectly shaped lips, long eyelashes. Her hands resting outside the blanket were smooth and manicured. Not a farmer's hands. A city woman, most likely. But what was she doing? Out here in the middle of nowhere during a storm. As if sensing his scrutiny, the woman's eyelids fluttered. Eli held his breath as her eyes opened, a startling shade of green that reminded him of spring leaves. For a moment she looked confused, then alarmed. She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "Easy," Eli said, his voice gentle. "You've had a bad knock on the head. Where am I?" Her voice was raspy but cultured, confirming his suspicion that she wasn't from around here. "Miller Farm," Eli answered. "About 20 miles outside of Riverdale. I found you unconscious in my barn. Can you tell me your name?" She hesitated, something flickering behind those green eyes. "Olivia," she finally said. Just that, no last name offered. "I'm Eli Miller, this is my farm." He gestured around them. "You want to tell me how you ended up in my barn during the worst storm of the season?" Olivia pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "I was traveling. My car went off the road a ways back. I was trying to find help when the storm got worse. I saw your barn and just wanted to get out of the rain." She touched her forehead gingerly. "I must have slipped and hit my head." The story seemed plausible enough, though something in her manner made Eli wonder if she was holding something back. Not his business, he reminded himself. People were entitled to their privacy. "We should get you to a doctor," he said. "No." The force of her response surprised them both. More calmly, she added, I don't think that's necessary. It's just a small cut." Eli frowned. "You were unconscious." "I'm feeling much better now," she insisted. "Really?" Before Eli could argue further, the lights flickered back on, the power returning as suddenly as it had gone. "Perfect timing," he said. "Are you hungry? I've got stew on the stove." The mention of food seemed to relax her slightly. "Actually, I'm starving." Eli helped her to the kitchen table, noting how she swayed slightly on her feet. Whatever her story, she was in no condition to go anywhere tonight. He ladled stew into 2 bowls and set one in front of her, along with a chunk of homemade bread. "It's nothing fancy," he apologized. Olivia took a bite and closed her eyes, as if savoring the simple meal. "It's wonderful," she said, with what seemed like genuine appreciation. "Thank you for everything." As they ate, Eli tried to learn more about his mysterious guest, but she deflected most of his questions with vague answers. She was from back east. She was just passing through. She had been visiting friends before deciding to take a drive through the countryside. What was clear was that she had no one to call and nowhere to go tonight. The storm continued to rage outside, making travel impossible anyway. "You can stay in the spare room," Eli offered when they'd finished eating. "Tomorrow, when the storm's passed, we'll figure out how to get your car fixed." Relief washed over her face. "You're very kind." "It's nothing," Eli said, suddenly self-conscious. It had been a long time since he'd had a guest, especially one as attractive as Olivia. After his wife, Sarah, died 5 years ago, he'd retreated into himself, focusing on the farm and little else. Having someone else in his home felt strange, but not entirely unwelcome. He showed her to the spare room, providing her with one of his t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants to sleep in. "Bathroom's down the hall if you want to clean up. Towels are in the cabinet." "Thank you," Olivia said again, looking small and vulnerable, standing in the doorway of the guest room. "Get some rest," Eli said gruffly, turning away. "We'll talk more in the morning." Back in his own room, Eli lay awake, listening to the storm and wondering about the woman sleeping down the hall. There was a story there, he was sure of it, but whether she'd share it with him remained to be seen. Olivia Gray woke to unfamiliar surroundings. Sunlight streamed through thin curtains, illuminating a simple room with wooden furniture and faded floral wallpaper. For a moment, panic gripped her as she struggled to remember where she was and how she'd gotten there. Then it all came flooding back. The desperate escape, the rental car sliding off the road in the storm, finding the barn, and then Eli, the kind farmer with the gentle hands and suspicious eyes. She sat up, wincing at the tender spot on her forehead. Her designer clothes were draped over a chair, still damp from the previous night's adventure. Instead, she wore an oversized t-shirt that smelled of laundry soap and something else, something distinctly masculine. Olivia drew her knees to her chest, taking stock of her situation. 3 days ago, she'd been Olivia Gray, CEO of Gray Agricultural Industries, one of the largest agricultural corporations in the country. She'd had wealth, power, and a future mapped out for her, including an engagement to Charles Blackwood, heir to Blackwood Enterprises, and the last man on earth she wanted to marry. The engagement had been her father's last command before he died, a merger of families to create an agricultural empire. Never mind that Charles was cold, controlling, and interested only in what Olivia could bring to the deal. Her father had never cared about her happiness, only the company. After the announcement, party with Charles's diamond weighing down her finger and his possessive hand on her back, something in Olivia had snapped. She'd waited until everyone was asleep, packed a small bag, withdrawn cash from an ATM and just left. No destination in mind, just away. Now, here she was, in a stranger's farmhouse, with nothing but the clothes on her back and the small bag she'd managed to grab from her car before the storm forced her to seek shelter. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "You awake in there?" Eli's deep voice called. "Yes," she answered, running a hand through her tangled hair. "I'll be out in a minute. Breakfast is ready whenever you are," he said. His footsteps retreated down the hall. Olivia quickly used the bathroom, doing her best to make herself presentable with what little she had. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the polished CEO who graced business magazines. This woman had shadows under her eyes, a bruise forming on her forehead, and a vulnerability that Olivia Gray would never allow herself to show. But maybe that was a good thing. Maybe this could be her chance to be someone else, just Olivia, not the Gray heiress with the weight of a corporation on her shoulders. The smell of coffee and bacon guided her to the kitchen, where Eli stood at the stove, flipping pancakes. Rusty, the border collie she'd met briefly the night before, wagged his tail in greeting. "Morning," Eli said, glancing over his shoulder. "How's the head?" "Better, thank you." She took a seat at the table, feeling oddly shy. In boardrooms, she commanded attention with ease. Here, in this homey kitchen with this straightforward man, she felt out of her element. "Weather's cleared up," Eli commented, setting a plate of pancakes and bacon in front of her. "After breakfast, I can drive you to your car, see if we can get it running." Olivia bit her lip. Her rental car was likely still stuck in the mud off the side of the road miles away. Even if they could get it out, where would she go? Back to her life, to Charles and the company and everything she'd been desperate to escape? "Actually," she said slowly, "I was thinking, do you need any help around here? On the farm, I mean." Eli's eyebrows shot up. "You want to work on my farm?" Put that way, it did sound ridiculous. What did she know about farming? But the alternative, leaving this peaceful place and facing her reality, seemed worse. "I can't pay you much," she explained, thinking quickly, "but I could work in exchange for room and board, just until I figure things out." Eli studied her for a long moment. Those blue eyes seemed to see right through her, making Olivia squirm in her seat. "Have you ever worked on a farm before?" he asked finally. "No," she admitted, "but I'm a quick learner, and I'm stronger than I look." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I don't doubt that. You survived that storm after all." He took a sip of his coffee, considering. "I could use some help, that's true. Spring's a busy time, but farm work isn't easy, especially for someone who isn't used to it." "I want to try," Olivia said, surprised by her own determination. When was the last time she'd wanted anything for herself? "All right," Eli said with a shrug. "We'll give it a trial run. A week. If it doesn't work out, no hard feelings." Relief washed over Olivia. A week. 7 days to enjoy this simple life before reality caught up with her. 7 days to be just Olivia, not Olivia Gray. "Thank you," she said. "You won't regret it." Eli's eyes crinkled at the corners. When he smiled, a genuine smile this time. "We'll see about that." As by midday, Olivia was beginning to think she'd made a terrible mistake. They'd gone to retrieve her belongings from the rental car, which was indeed stuck in a ditch about 3 miles from the farm. The car wouldn't start. Something about water in the engine that Eli explained, but Olivia didn't fully understand. He'd called a tow truck to take it to a garage in town, then helped her salvage her small bag from the trunk. Now she stood in the chicken coop, a basket in one hand. staring at the hens who stared back with what she could swear was judgment in their beady eyes. "Just reach under them and feel for the eggs," Eli had instructed before leaving her to check on something in the fields. "They might peck a bit, but it doesn't hurt much. Doesn't hurt much." What a reassurance. Olivia took a deep breath and reached toward the nearest hen, who promptly squawked and flapped her wings indignantly. "Sorry." Olivia withdrew her hand quickly. "I'm just trying to... Could you please just cooperate?" The hen settled back down, eyeing her suspiciously. "Look," Olivia said, feeling ridiculous for talking to a chicken. "I'm having a really strange week. Yesterday I was supposed to be planning a wedding I don't want. Today I'm trying to collect your eggs without getting pecked to death. So if you could just be nice about this, I'd appreciate it." To her surprise, when she reached under the hen this time, her fingers closed around a warm, smooth egg. Success. Carefully, she placed it in her basket and moved on to the next hen. By the time Eli returned, Olivia had collected a dozen eggs, suffering only minor pecking and a good deal of indignity. "Not bad," he said, inspecting her basket. "Most city folks I know would have run screaming from that coop." "I considered it," Olivia admitted with a smile, "but I don't like giving up." Something in his expression softened. "Good quality in a farmer. Come on, I'll show you the vegetable garden next. We need to check on the seeds I planted before the storm." As they walked, Olivia found herself studying Eli from the corner of her eye. In the daylight, she could see that he was handsome in a rugged, weathered way, tall and broad-shouldered, with lines at the corners of his eyes that spoke of long days in the sun. His dark hair was streaked with silver at the temples, and his hands were strong and capable. Nothing like Charles, whose manicured appearance and cold efficiency had always left her feeling like a business asset rather than a woman. Eli caught her looking and raised an eyebrow. "Something wrong?" "No," Olivia said quickly. "Just taking it all in. Your farm is beautiful." It wasn't a lie. The Miller farm spread out before them in a patchwork of fields and pastures, bordered by woods, to the north and a small stream to the west. In the distance, she could see a herd of cattle grazing peacefully. "Been in my family for generations," Eli said, pride evident in his voice. "My grandfather built this place up from nothing. My father expanded it. Now it's my turn to keep it going." "Do you have children to pass it on to?" Olivia asked, then immediately regretted it when she saw pain flash across his face. "No," he said shortly. "My wife Sarah, we lost her 5 years ago. Cancer." "I'm so sorry," Olivia said softly. "I shouldn't have pried." Eli shook his head. "It's a natural question, and it's not like it's a secret around here. Everyone in town knows my story." He cleared his throat. "What about you? Anyone waiting for you back where you came from?" It was Olivia's turn to look away. "No one who cares where I am," she said, thinking of Charles and his cold, possessive gaze. "Not love, never love, just ownership." Eli seemed to sense her discomfort and changed the subject. "Let's check those seeds. If the rain washed them away, we'll need to replant." The rest of the day passed in a blur of new experiences. Eli showed her the vegetable garden, where tiny green shoots were already pushing through the soil. He taught her how to recognize weeds and how to pull them without disturbing the growing plants. They fed the chickens, checked on the cows, and repaired a section of fence that had been damaged in the storm. By sunset, every muscle in Olivia's body ached. Her hands, unused to physical labor, were red and sore. Her designer clothes, now traded for some of Eli's old work shirts and jeans rolled up at the cuffs, were smeared with dirt and who knew what else. And yet as she collapsed into a chair on the porch to watch the sunset, she felt a strange sense of satisfaction. "You did good today," Eli said, handing her a glass of iced tea before taking the chair next to hers. "Most city folks would have given up by lunchtime." "Is that a compliment, Mr. Miller?" Olivia teased, surprising herself with her own lightness. Eli's lips quirked. "Might be. Don't let it go to your head. We've got twice as much to do tomorrow." Olivia groaned, but she was smiling. "I think I used muscles today that I didn't even know I had." "It gets easier," Eli promised. "Or maybe you just get tougher. Either way, a hot bath will help." They sat in companionable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Rusty lay at their feet, occasionally thumping his tail against the wooden porch. "It's so peaceful here," Olivia said softly. "Like a different world." Eli glanced at her. "Different from what?" Olivia realized her mistake. "From the city," she said quickly. "Everything there is always so fast, loud. This is nice. Just being." "That's farm life," Eli said. "Connected to the land, the seasons. There's a rhythm to it. Not always easy, but there's a peace in it, like you said." As darkness fell, they moved inside. Eli showed her how to make a simple pasta dinner, and they ate at the kitchen table, talking about the farm and the town and carefully avoiding any topics that might reveal too much of Olivia's past. After dinner, Eli excused himself to make some calls about her car, and Olivia took the opportunity to explore the house a bit more. The living room was cozy with well-worn furniture and family photos on the walls. There was Eli as a boy, standing proudly with a man who must have been his father. Eli in a high school football uniform. Eli and a pretty blonde woman, Sarah presumably, on their wedding day. Olivia's chest tightened at the happiness evident in that last photo. Had anyone ever looked at her with such open adoration? Certainly not Charles, whose interest in her extended only as far as her company and what it could do for his own ambitions. "That's Sarah." Eli's voice came from behind her, making her jump. "I'm sorry," Olivia said, turning to face him. "I didn't mean to snoop." Eli shook his head. "It's not snooping if they're out in the open." He moved closer, looking at the photo with a mixture of fondness and sadness. "That was our wedding day. Happiest day of my life, right there." "She was beautiful," Olivia said sincerely. "She was," Eli agreed. "Inside and out. We were together, since high school. She loved this farm almost as much as I do, was working right alongside me up until she got sick." He sighed. "It's been just me and Rusty for 5 years now." The simple honesty in his words touched something in Olivia. Here was a man who had loved deeply, lost terribly, and somehow kept going. No pretense, no games, just raw, real emotion. "I think she'd be proud of you," Olivia found herself saying. "Keeping the farm going, making it beautiful." Eli looked at her, surprised, then his expression softened. "Thank you for that." He cleared his throat. "Anyway, I called about your car. It's going to need some parts that won't be in until next week. Hope you meant it about wanting to help around here, because you're stuck with me for a while." Olivia felt a knot of tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying release. A week, maybe more. Time to breathe, to think, to just be Olivia instead of Olivia Gray. "I meant it," she assured him. "Though you might regret it when you see how sore I am tomorrow." Eli laughed, a warm sound that did something funny to Olivia's insides. "Like I said, you'll toughen up. Now you mentioned wanting a bath. I'll show you how the old water heater works. It's got its quirks." As she followed him upstairs, Olivia was struck by how comfortable she already felt in this house, with this man. In less than 24 hours, Eli Miller had shown her more genuine kindness than she'd experienced in years in her high-powered world. For the first time since she'd fled her engagement party, Olivia felt like she might have made the right choice after all. Miles away, in a luxurious penthouse office, Charles Blackwood slammed his fist on his mahogany desk. "What do you mean you can't find her?" He snarled at the private investigator on the other end of the phone. "She's not some street urchin. She's Olivia Gray. Her face is on the cover of Business Monthly, for God's sake." "We're doing everything we can, Mr. Blackwood," the investigator assured him. "We've traced her as far as a car rental agency in Springfield. After that, the trail goes cold. She paid cash, used no credit cards, made no calls." Charles paced the length of his office, fuming. The merger between Gray Agricultural Industries and Blackwood Enterprises hinged on his marriage to Olivia. Without her, the deal was in jeopardy, and he'd already invested too much to let it slip away now. "Find her," he ordered. "I don't care what it takes or what it costs. Find her and bring her back where she belongs." As he hung up, Charles looked out at the city skyline, his expression hardening. Olivia thought she could run from him, from her responsibilities, from the future they were meant to share. She was wrong. He would find her, And when he did, she would learn that no one walked away from Charles Blackwood. No one. 1 week turned into 2, and before Olivia knew it, a month had passed at Miller Farm. The city girl who had once run board meetings in designer heels now moved with growing confidence among chickens and cows, her skin sun-kissed, her hands toughened with honest work. "You're getting the hang of this," Eli remarked one morning, as he watched Olivia expertly collect eggs from the henhouse. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, something that had been rare in her old life. "I had a good teacher." Their routine had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Early mornings began with coffee on the porch, watching the sun rise over the fields. Then came the chores, feeding animals, checking fences, tending the vegetable garden that was now flourishing under their combined care. Evenings were spent on the porch again, sometimes talking, sometimes sitting in companionable silence as fireflies danced in the gathering darkness. Today was market day, when Eli took his produce and eggs to the farmer's market in town. Olivia had been helping him prepare since dawn, washing vegetables and packing them carefully into crates. "Are you sure you're ready for town?" Eli asked, as they loaded the last crate onto his old pickup truck. "You've been hiding out here for a month. People are going to be curious." Olivia stiffened slightly. She'd been avoiding town, afraid someone might recognize her. Even here, miles from her old life, the fear of discovery lingered. "What have you told people about me?" she asked. Eli shrugged. "Not much. Just that I have a friend staying and helping. Out for a while." He studied her face. "You know, sooner or later you're going to have to tell me what you're running from." Olivia busied herself adjusting a crate of tomatoes. "I'm not running from anything," she lied. "I just needed a change." "Uh-huh." Eli clearly didn't believe her, but he didn't push. That was one of the things she'd come to appreciate about him, his respect for her privacy, even as his eyes told her he saw more than she wanted him to. "I'm ready for town," she said finally. "It'll be nice to see something beyond the farm." Drive into Riverdale took about 20 minutes, down winding country roads bordered by other farms and patches of woodland. Olivia rolled down her window, enjoying the rush of warm air against her face. The rental car had finally been fixed, but it remained parked near Eli's barn. Somehow, she couldn't bring herself to use it, to take even that small step back toward her old life. Riverdale was exactly the kind of small town Olivia had seen in movies, but never experienced firsthand. A main street lined with family-owned businesses, American flags hanging from lampposts, people greeting each other by name as they went about their Saturday errands. The farmers' market occupied the town square, a collection of trucks and stalls where local farmers sold their produce. Eli found his usual spot and began setting up, with Olivia helping to arrange their display of vegetables, eggs, and the honey from Eli's beehives. "Eli Miller, you old dog." A large man with a red face approached their stall, grinning broadly. "Heard you had a pretty lady staying out at your place, but I didn't believe it till now." "Morning, Frank," Eli said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "This is Olivia." "Olivia, this is Frank Davis. He owns the hardware store." "Pleasure to meet you, ma'am," Frank said, tipping an imaginary hat. "Welcome to Riverdale. Don't believe anything this fella tells you about me. I'm much worse." Olivia laughed, despite her nervousness. "It's nice to meet you, Frank." As the morning progressed, more of the townspeople stopped by, all curious about Eli's mysterious guest. Olivia found herself fielding questions about where she was from, back east, what brought her to Riverdale, just passing through, and how long she planned to stay. Not sure yet. Through it all, Eli stood beside her, occasionally steering the conversation away when it veered too close to topics Olivia seemed uncomfortable with. She appreciated his protection, even as she felt guilty for not being honest with him. Around noon, a woman about Olivia's age approached their stall. She was pretty in a wholesome way, with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and friendly blue eyes. "Eli," she greeted warmly. "Your tomatoes look wonderful this year." "Thanks, Jenny." Eli seemed especially pleased to see her. "They've had a good caretaker." He nodded toward Olivia. "Jenny, this is Olivia. She's been helping out at the farm. Olivia Jenny Taylor. She runs the diner on Main Street, and she makes the best apple pie in 3 counties." "Oh, stop," Jenny laughed, but her eyes sparkled at the compliment. "It's nice to meet you, Olivia. We don't get many new faces around here." "Nice to meet you too," Olivia said, immediately liking the woman's easy manner. "You should bring Olivia to the diner sometime, Eli," Jenny suggested. "Give the poor girl a break from your cooking." "Hey, she hasn't complained yet," Eli protested good-naturedly. "That's because she's too polite," Jenny teased, winking at Olivia. "Seriously, come by any time. First slice of pie is on the house for newcomers. It's a Riverdale tradition." After Jenny left with her vegetables, Olivia caught Eli watching the blonde woman walk away, a certain softness in his expression. "She seems nice," Olivia commented. "Jenny? Yeah, she's great." Eli busied himself rearranging some bell peppers. "Known her since we were kids. Her husband, Tim, was my best friend. He died in Afghanistan about 7 years ago." "I'm sorry," Olivia said, feeling a strange twinge as she watched Eli's eyes follow Jenny across the square. "Were you and she ever—" "Me and Jenny?" Eli looked surprised. "No, never like that. She was always Tim's girl. After he died, I tried to look out for her a bit, that's all, and after Sarah," he shrugged. "We've both lost people we loved. Creates a bond, I guess." Olivia nodded, oddly relieved. Then she mentally scolded herself. What did it matter to her if there was something between Eli and Jenny? It wasn't as if she and Eli were anything more than— what exactly? Employer and employee. Friends. Something was growing between them, something that made her heart beat faster when their hands accidentally touched, or when she caught him looking at her with those intense blue eyes. But she had no right to those feelings, not when her entire presence in his life was based on a lie. The rest of the market day passed quickly. By mid-afternoon, most of their produce had sold, and Eli suggested they pack up and head into town for lunch. "Jenny's diner," he proposed. She wasn't kidding about that pie. "Sure," Olivia agreed, ignoring the butterflies in her stomach. Was this a date? No, she was being ridiculous. They were just two people getting lunch after a long morning of work. Jenny's place occupied a corner building on Main Street, with large windows and a cheerful red awning. Inside, the decor was classic small-town diner. Red vinyl booths, chrome fixtures, and black and white photos of old Riverdale on the walls. Jenny herself greeted them at the door. "Well, look who finally decided to join civilization," she teased. "Eli, your usual booth is open." She led them to a booth by the window and handed them menus. "The special today is meatloaf, and don't forget, Olivia gets a free slice of pie." After Jenny left to get their drinks, Olivia raised an eyebrow at Eli. "Your usual booth?" Eli looked slightly embarrassed. "I come in now and then for dinner. It's nice not to have to cook for myself sometimes." They ordered meatloaf for Eli, a chicken salad sandwich for Olivia, and fell into easy conversation about the morning's sales and plans for the farm. Olivia was surprised at how invested she'd become in Eli's work. She found herself making suggestions about crop rotation and market strategies, drawing on business knowledge she tried to disguise as common sense. "You know," Eli said thoughtfully, "for someone who claims to have no farming experience, you've got some good ideas." Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Just beginner's luck, I guess." Eli looked like he wanted to say more, but just then the diner's door opened and a middle-aged couple walked in. The woman paused, staring at Olivia with a frown of concentration. "Excuse me," she said, approaching their table, "but aren't you Janet?" Jenny intercepted the woman smoothly. "Your table's ready over here." As Jenny led the couple away, Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. Had the woman recognized her? It was possible. Olivia's face had been featured in business magazines and newspapers, especially after the announcement of her engagement to Charles. "You okay?" Eli asked, noticing her distress. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Olivia said quickly. "Just thought I recognized someone, but I was wrong." Eli's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't press the issue. They finished their meal in relative silence, the easy mood broken. When Jenny brought Olivia's promised slice of apple pie, she tried to recapture her earlier enjoyment, but the fear of discovery had cast a shadow over the day. On the drive back to the farm, Eli finally broke the silence. "You know, whatever," You're running from, it might help to talk about it. Olivia stared out the window, watching the peaceful countryside roll by. How could she explain without revealing the whole truth? And if she revealed the whole truth, would Eli look at her differently? The kind farmer who had taken in a stranger during a storm might not be so welcoming to a billionaire CEO who had lied to him from the start. It's complicated, she said finally. Life usually is, Eli replied simply. When they returned to the farm, Eli went to check on a fence that needed repair, while Olivia headed to the vegetable garden to water the young plants. As she worked, she couldn't shake the fear that her time in this peaceful haven was coming to an end. Sooner or later, someone would recognize her. Sooner or later, Charles would find her. The thought brought a physical ache to her chest. She'd grown to love this place, the wide open fields, the rhythm of farm life, the simple pleasures of watching things grow under her care. And Eli, the thought of leaving him, hurt most of all. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Eli handed her a small wrapped package. "What's this?" Olivia asked, surprised. "Open it and see," Eli said, looking slightly embarrassed. Inside was a delicate silver chain with a small charm in the shape of a chicken. Olivia laughed in delight. "A chicken?" "To commemorate your victory." "Over the hen house," Eli explained, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You've come a long way from that city girl who was afraid to reach under a hen." Olivia's throat tightened with emotion. It was such a small thing, but the thoughtfulness behind it touched her deeply. "Thank you," she managed. "It's perfect. Will you help me put it on?" Eli's fingers were surprisingly gentle as he fastened the clasp around her neck, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. When he finished, his hands lingered for a moment on her shoulders, and Olivia found herself holding her breath. "Looks good on you," he said softly, his blue eyes meeting hers. For a heartbeat, Olivia thought he might kiss her, hoped he would. But then Rusty barked at something in the distance, breaking the moment. Eli stepped back, the connection broken. "I should check on that," he said, gesturing vaguely in the direction of Rusty's barking. "Could be a coyote near the chicken coop." As he walked away, Olivia touched the little chicken charm at her throat, her emotions in turmoil. She was falling for him, had already fallen, if she was honest with herself. But their entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies. How could anything real grow from that? And the following week brought the town's annual spring festival, a tradition Eli explained had been going on for generations. The entire community gathered in the town square for food, games, music, and dancing. "You should come," Eli told Olivia over breakfast. "It's actually pretty fun, even for a city girl like you." Olivia hesitated. The farmer's market had been one thing. This would mean spending hours in town, increasing the chances of being recognized. But the hopeful look in Eli's eyes made it impossible to refuse. "I'd like that," she said finally, "but I don't have anything to wear." Her small bag of belongings contained nothing suitable for a festival. "We can fix that," Eli said. "There's a dress shop in town, nothing fancy, but they'll have something." That afternoon they drove into Riverdale again. The dress shop was small but charming, with friendly service from an older woman who introduced herself as Mrs. Henderson. Olivia selected a simple blue sundress that complemented her eyes and fit her surprisingly well. "You look beautiful, Mrs. Henderson declared as Olivia emerged from the dressing room. Eli, who had been awkwardly examining a display of scarves, turned to look at her. Something in his expression made Olivia's breath catch. "Yeah," he agreed softly. "You do." As Mrs. Henderson rang up the purchase, she chatted about the festival. "The whole town turns out for it. Even some of the summer folks come in early for it. Like the Blackwoods, they've got that big house on the lake. Usually don't see them till July, but Mr. Blackwood arrived yesterday. Rented out half the rooms at the inn for him and his folks." Olivia froze. "Blackwood," she repeated, her voice barely audible. "Charles Blackwood," Mrs. Henderson confirmed. "You know that handsome businessman from the city? Been on the news lately about some big merger?" She leaned in conspiratorially. "They say he's here looking for his runaway fiancée. Can you imagine? Running away from a man like that? Rich, handsome, powerful. Some women don't know how good they've got it." The room seemed to spin around Olivia. Charles was here, in Riverdale. He was looking for her. How had he tracked her this far? The small town suddenly felt like a trap closing in around her. "Olivia," Eli's concerned voice broke through her panic. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," she managed. "Just a little dizzy. Maybe we should go." Outside, Olivia gulped in, the fresh air trying to calm her racing heart. Eli watched her with growing concern. "What happened in there?" he asked. "Was it something Mrs. Henderson said?" "No," Olivia lied. "I just felt a little faint. Maybe I'm coming down with something." Eli didn't look convinced. "Maybe we should skip the festival tomorrow if you're not feeling well." "No," Olivia protested, perhaps too quickly. The festival would be crowded. The perfect place to get lost in a crowd if Charles was looking for her. Besides, she couldn't bear to disappoint Eli. "I mean, I'm sure I'll be fine by tomorrow. I don't want to miss it." That night, Olivia hardly slept, her mind racing with fear and indecision. Should she leave now before Charles found her? The thought of running again, of leaving Eli and the farm, made her physically ill. But staying put her at risk, and worse, it put Eli at risk of being caught in the crossfire of her complicated life. By morning, Olivia had made her decision. She would go to the festival with Eli, enjoy one last perfect day with him, and then slip away. She'd leave a note explaining that she had to go without revealing who she really was. It would hurt him, she knew, but less than the truth would. The day of the spring festival dawned bright and clear. Eli seemed in unusually high spirits as they drove into town, pointing out landmarks and sharing stories from festivals of years past. Olivia tried to commit every detail to memory: the sound of his laugh, the way the sun caught in his dark hair, the strength of his hands on the steering wheel, memories to sustain her when she was gone. The town square had been transformed overnight. Colorful bunting hung between lampposts, stalls offered food and crafts, and a stage had been set up for the evening's music and dancing. Children ran about with faces painted like butterflies and tigers, and the air smelled of barbecue and sweet cotton candy. Despite her anxieties, Olivia found herself enjoying the simple pleasures of the day. She and Eli tried their hands at carnival, games, sampled food from various stalls, and greeted the now familiar faces of the townspeople. Throughout it all, Olivia kept a watchful eye out for Charles, ready to duck away at the first sign of him. By late afternoon, they found themselves at a booth where Jenny was serving her famous pies. "You two are the talk of the town, you know," Jenny teased as she handed them each a slice of apple pie. "Eli Miller and his mysterious city girl." Eli rolled his eyes. "Small towns can't sneeze without everyone offering you a tissue." "You love it," Jenny laughed. "Oh, speaking of gossip, did you hear about the commotion at the inn this morning? That rich city fellow, Blackwood, had his people showing your photo all over town." She looked at Olivia. "Apparently, he's looking for his fiancée. The photo kind of reminded me of you, actually, though she was all dressed up with fancy hair and makeup." Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. Beside her, Eli went very still. "What did you tell them?" Eli asked carefully. Jenny looked between them, suddenly catching on that something was wrong. "Nothing," she said quickly. "The woman in the photo had this polished, perfect look, like a model or something, not like—" She gestured vaguely at Olivia with her simple sundress and sun-kissed skin. "Well, you know what I mean." Olivia couldn't look at Eli. She could feel his eyes on her, putting the pieces together. "Thanks for the pie, Jenny," Eli said, his voice unnaturally calm. "I think we're going to head back to the farm. Olivia's not feeling well." "Eli, wait." Olivia started as he took her elbow and guided her firmly away from Jenny's booth. "Not here," he said quietly. "Too many ears." They walked in tense silence to the truck. Once inside, Eli turned to face her fully. "You want to tell me what's going on? And this time I want the truth." Olivia's hands trembled in her lap. This was it, the moment she'd been dreading. The end of her peaceful refuge, the end of whatever was growing between her and Eli. "My name is Olivia Gray," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm the CEO of Gray Agricultural Industries." Eli's expression didn't change. but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the steering wheel. "Go on." "My father built the company from nothing. When he died 6 months ago, I took over. But the board, they thought a merger with Blackwood Enterprises would be beneficial." She swallowed hard. "Charles Blackwood was my fiancé. The engagement was part of the merger agreement." "An arranged marriage," Eli said flatly. "In the 21st century." "It happens more than you'd think in certain circles," Olivia said, "but I couldn't go through with it. Charles is..." She shuddered. "He's cold, controlling. He sees me as an acquisition, not a person. So the night of our engagement party, I just grabbed what I could and left. I had no plan, no destination in mind." "And then you ended up in my barn," Eli finished. Olivia risked a glance at him. His face was unreadable. "Yes, and I should have told you the truth from the beginning, but I was afraid. And then, as time passed, it got harder to find the right moment." Eli was quiet for a long time, digesting this information. Finally, he started the truck. "We should get back to the farm," he said. "It's not safe for you here if this Blackwood character is looking for you." Relief flooded Olivia. He wasn't throwing her out of the truck, at least. "You're not angry?" "Oh, I'm angry," Eli said, pulling onto the road that led back to the farm. "But not for the reasons you might think. I'm angry that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. I'm angry that you've been planning to run again. Don't deny it, I can see it in your eyes. But mostly I'm angry that some rich city boy thinks he can buy and sell people like they're cattle." They drove the rest of the way in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the farm, Eli killed the engine, but made no move to get out of the truck. "So what now?" he asked finally. "You're going to run again?" Olivia stared down at the little chicken charm around her neck. "I don't know," she admitted. "I thought I would, but I don't want to." "Then don't," Eli said simply. Olivia looked up at him, surprised. "What?" "Don't run," Eli repeated. "Stay, fight. If this is what you want," he gestured around them at the farmer, "then fight for it." The simplicity of his solution caught Olivia off guard. Her whole life she'd been taught to maneuver, to compromise, to find the politically expedient solution. Direct confrontation wasn't the grey way, but Eli's straightforward approach was appealing in its honesty. "It's not that simple," she tried to explain. "Charles is powerful. He has resources, connections." "So do you," Eli cut in. "You're a CEO, for crying out loud. You ran a big company. Are you telling me you can't stand up to one man?" Put that way, it did sound ridiculous. Olivia Gray, who had faced down boardrooms, full of skeptical old men afraid of one entitled bully. "Besides," Eli added more softly, "you're not alone this time." There it was, the offer she'd been longing to hear. Not just a place to stay, but an ally, someone on her side. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "After I lied to you?" Eli sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because in the last month I've watched you change from a city girl who couldn't tell a chicken from a duck to someone who loves this land almost as much as I do. Because you haven't had a real choice in your life for a long time, and everyone deserves that. And because..." He stopped, looking away. "Because I care about you, more than I should, probably." Olivia's heart swelled. She reached across the seat and took his hand. "I care about you too," she whispered. "And I'm so sorry I lied." Eli squeezed her hand. "No more lies," he said firmly. "From now on we face things together. Deal?" "Deal," Olivia agreed, feeling as if a weight had lifted from her shoulders. As they got out of the truck, Rusty came bounding to greet them, barking happily. The familiar sight of the farmhouse, the fields stretching out around them, filled Olivia with resolve. This was worth fighting for, this place, this life, this man. But as they walked toward the house, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Olivia froze, recognizing the vehicle instantly. The back door opened, and Charles Blackwood stepped out impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that looked absurdly out of place against the backdrop of the farm. "Olivia," he called, his voice carrying across the yard. "I've been looking everywhere. For you." Eli moved slightly in front of her, protective. "That him?" he asked quietly. Olivia nodded, unable to speak past the lump of fear in her throat. "Remember," Eli murmured. "Together." Drawing strength from his presence, Olivia squared her shoulders and faced the man she'd fled from, the man who thought he could own her. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. "Hello, Charles," she said clearly. "What took you so long?" Charles Blackwood stood in the farmyard, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit and polished shoes. Behind him, a driver in a black suit waited by the car, and in the distance another black vehicle pulled up, likely containing more of Charles's security team. "You've led me on quite a chase, Olivia," Charles said, his smile not reaching his cold eyes. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused?" Eli felt Olivia tense beside him. He placed a reassuring hand on her lower back, a silent reminder that she wasn't alone. "Hello, Charles," Olivia repeated, her voice steadier than she felt. "How did you find me?" Charles brushed an invisible speck of dust from his sleeve. "It wasn't easy. You covered your tracks well, but then again, you've always been clever. It's one of the things I admire about you." His gaze shifted to Eli, taking in his worn jeans and work boots with obvious disdain. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?" "This is Eli Miller," Olivia said. "This is his farm. Eli, this is Charles Blackwood." Eli nodded but didn't offer his hand. "You're on private property, Mr. Blackwood." Charles raised an eyebrow. "Am I? Well, I'm simply here to collect my fiancée." He turned his attention back to Olivia. "This little adventure of yours has gone on long enough, don't you think? The board is getting nervous. The merger is at risk. It's time to come home." The way he said home made Olivia's skin crawl. Home wasn't her empty penthouse apartment or the Gray estate. Home, she had discovered, was right here. The smell of fresh hay, chickens scratching in the yard, Rusty's familiar bark, and Eli's steady presence beside her. "I'm not going anywhere with you, Charles," she said firmly. "Our engagement is over. The merger will have to proceed without my marriage as part of the deal." Charles's smile tightened. "I'm afraid it's not that simple, Olivia. My father's will made me CEO," Olivia cut in. "It didn't dictate who I should marry. That was the board's idea, which I foolishly went along with. But I've changed. My mind." "Changed your mind?" Charles's voice was dangerously soft. "Because of this?" He gestured at the farm around them. "Because of him?" His eyes flicked to Eli. "Do you have any idea how ridiculous you look right now? Olivia Gray playing farmhand, wearing clothes from the discount rack, hands rough as a laborer's?" Olivia flushed, but Eli spoke before she could respond. "I think she looks just fine," he said, his deep voice calm but with an edge of steel. "Better than fine, she looks happy. When's the last time you saw her happy, Mr. Blackwood?" Charles ignored him, focusing solely on Olivia. "This isn't you, Olivia. You're not cut out for this primitive lifestyle. You're Olivia Gray. You belong in boardrooms and charity galas, not chicken coops." "You don't know me," Olivia said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "You never did. All you saw was Gray Agricultural Industries and what it could do for Blackwood Enterprises." "And what does he see?" Charles nodded toward Eli. "A meal ticket? A rich woman to save his failing farm? Does he know your net worth, Olivia? Because I'm guessing he does now." Eli stepped forward, his patience clearly wearing thin. "I think you should leave, Mr. Blackwood. Olivia's made her choice clear." Charles laughed, a cold sound without humor. "Her choice? You think this is a choice? Olivia has responsibilities, obligations. She doesn't get to run away and play house with the first farmer who takes her in." "That's enough," Olivia said sharply. "I am not property to be claimed, Charles. Not yours, not the board's, not even my father's. I am a person with my own mind and my own heart." She took a deep breath. "And my heart is here." The declaration hung in the air between them. Eli glanced at her, surprise and something warmer in his eyes. Charles's face hardened into a mask of anger. "This is absurd," he snapped. "You've known this man, what, a month, and you're throwing away everything, your company, your legacy, our future, for him?" "Not for him," Olivia corrected. "For me. For the first time in my life, I'm making a choice that's truly mine. And yes, that choice includes Eli, but it's about more than that. It's about the person I want to be, the life I want to live." Charles was quiet for a long moment, studying her with calculating eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was calm but laced with threat. "I see. Well, I had hoped to do this the easy way, but you leave me no choice. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. This is a court order. The board has filed for an emergency injunction declaring you temporarily unfit to serve as CEO due to mental instability. What? Olivia gasped, taking the paper with trembling hands. Running away from your responsibilities, abandoning your post without notice, living under a false identity. It wasn't hard to make the case that you're having some kind of breakdown. Charles's smile was cold. The hearing is next week. If you don't return with me now and resume your duties, including our engagement, the board will vote to make the change permanent. You'll lose everything your father built. Olivia felt as if the ground had dropped from beneath her feet. She'd known Charles was ruthless in business, but this level of manipulation shocked even her. You can't do this, she whispered, scanning the legal document with growing horror. I already have, Charles replied smoothly. The car's waiting. I've booked us on the evening flight back to the city. Time to end this rustic vacation of yours. Olivia looked from the paper to Charles's smug face, then to Eli, who looked as though he might physically throw Charles off his property at any moment. She was trapped exactly as she had been before she ran away, only now the stakes were even higher. Olivia, Eli said quietly, whatever you decide, I'm with you. His words, simple and sincere, steadied her. She looked back at Charles, seeing him clearly perhaps for the first time, not as the intimidating businessman who held her future in his hands, but as a desperate, controlling man who couldn't stand to lose. No, Charles, she said, her voice growing stronger. I won't be bullied or manipulated. If the board wants a fight, they'll get one. I'm my father's daughter, after all. Charles's confidence faltered slightly. He hadn't expected resistance. Don't be a fool, Olivia. You can't win this. Not against me, not against the board. Maybe not, Olivia conceded. But I have to try for myself, for my father's legacy. She glanced at Eli. And for what matters most. Charles's face darkened with anger. Is this your final answer? You're choosing this me, farmer, over everything else. I'm choosing myself, Olivia corrected. Now please leave. This is private property, as Eli mentioned. For a moment, Charles looked as though he might argue further. Then he straightened his tie, his mask of cold professionalism sliding back into place. Very well, I'll see you at the hearing, Olivia. His gaze shifted to Eli. Enjoy her while you can, Mr. Miller. She won't be slumming it for much longer. With that parting shot, he turned and walked back to his waiting car. As the vehicles pulled away, Olivia felt her legs give way beneath her. Eli caught her, supporting her weight easily. Hey, he murmured. You okay? Olivia shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. No, he's going to take everything. The company my father built, my inheritance, my reputation. Look at me, Eli said gently, turning her to face him. You were amazing just now, standing up to him like that. I've never seen anything braver. But I don't know if I can win, Olivia admitted, the court order still clutched in her hand. The board has power, Charles has influence, and I've been away giving them all the ammunition they need. Eli guided her to the porch steps and sat beside her. Rusty came and laid his head on her knee as if sensing her distress. So what happens now? Eli asked after a moment. Olivia sighed, running a hand through her hair. I have to go back, at least temporarily. I need to talk to my lawyers, prepare for the hearing. If there's any chance of saving the company, I have to take it. I understand, Eli said, though she could hear the disappointment in his voice. Will you? Olivia hesitated, suddenly afraid of his answer. Will you come with me, to the city? Eli looked surprised. You want me there? More than anything, Olivia said honestly. I meant what I said to Charles. My heart is here with you with this place. But I need to fight for my father's legacy too. I'm hoping I can have both. She took his hand. But I understand if you don't want to get involved in all this mess. Eli was quiet for a long moment, his blue eyes thoughtful as he looked out over his fields. Olivia held her breath, waiting. If he said no, could she blame him? Her life was complicated, messy. She'd dragged him into a corporate battle he never asked for. "I've never been to the city," he said finally. "Guess it's about time I saw how the other half lives." Relief and joy rushed through Olivia. She threw her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered against his shoulder. Eli held her close, one hand cradling the back of her head. "Besides," he added with a hint of humor in his voice, "someone's got to make sure those city folks don't try to pull a fast one on you. You might be a big-shot CEO, but you're still the girl who was afraid of my chickens." Olivia laughed through her tears, feeling a surge of affection for this man who could make her smile even in her darkest moments. She pulled back to look at him, struck by how much he had come to mean to her in such a short time. "I should warn you," she said. "It's going to be ugly. Charles doesn't like to lose, and neither does the board." "Neither do you," Eli pointed out. "And neither do I." Olivia nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. "We leave tomorrow," she decided. "The sooner we get there, the more time we have to prepare." As they went inside to pack and make arrangements, Olivia felt a curious mixture of dread and determination. She was returning to a world she'd fled, but this time she wasn't alone. This time, she had someone worth fighting for. The city skyline loomed before them as Eli guided his pickup truck through increasingly congested traffic. Olivia sat beside him, watching his reactions as he took in the towering buildings and bustling streets. She'd offered to have a car service pick them up at the airport, but Eli had insisted on driving his own truck. "I'm not leaving my baby in long term." "Parking," he'd declared, only half joking. "It's so loud," he commented now, frowning at a taxi that cut him off. "And everyone's in such a hurry." Olivia smiled despite her nerves. Seeing the city through Eli's eyes made her notice things she'd long taken for granted. The constant noise, the crush of people, the frantic pace of life. After a month on the farm, it all seemed overwhelming. "Just turn here," she directed. "My building is on the right." Eli whistled low when he saw the gleaming high-rise with its uniformed doorman. "That's where you live?" "The penthouse," Olivia admitted, feeling strangely embarrassed. It came with the job. As they pulled up to the entrance, the doorman's eyes widened in recognition. "Miss Gray, welcome back." "Thank you, Robert," Olivia said with a smile. "This is Mr. Miller. He'll be staying with me." If Robert was surprised to see Olivia Gray, missing CEO, return with a rugged farmer in a pickup truck, he hid it well. "Of course, Miss Gray. Shall I have your bags taken up?" "We can manage, thanks," Olivia said, not missing the way Eli's shoulders tensed at the offer. She understood his discomfort. He wasn't used to being waited on. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent, Eli watching the floor numbers climb with an unreadable expression. When the doors finally opened directly into Olivia's apartment, he stopped short, taking in the vast space with its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. "Home, sweet home," Olivia said with a weak smile, setting down her bag. Eli wandered to the windows, looking out at the city spread beneath them. "You can't see the stars from here," he observed. The simple statement hit Olivia with unexpected force. He was right. In all her years living in this luxury apartment, she'd never once seen the stars the way she had from Eli's porch, brilliant and countless in the country darkness. "No," she agreed softly. "You can't." Eli turned to her, his expression softening. "Hey, I didn't mean anything by it. It's just different, that's all." "It is different," Olivia said, moving to stand beside him. "I never realized how different until I stayed with you." She looked around at the sleek, modern furniture, the abstract art on the walls, the gleaming kitchen that had barely been used. "This never felt like home, not really." Eli squeezed her hand. "So let's win this fight and go home, to the farm." His words gave her the courage she needed. Tomorrow she would face her lawyers, the board, and all the complications of the life she'd left behind. But tonight, she had Eli beside her, grounding her with his solid presence. "I'll show you around," she offered. "And then we should order some dinner. I'm guessing the fridge is empty after a month away." As they explored the penthouse, Olivia watched Eli's reactions with amusement. He seemed most impressed by the rainfall shower in the guest bathroom. "Water pressure's better than my whole house." And most baffled by her walk-in closet. "You need this many shoes?" They were just settling on the couch with Thai food Olivia had ordered when her phone rang. The screen displayed her lawyer's name. "Martin," she answered. "Thanks for getting back to me so quickly." "Olivia," her lawyer's voice was grave. "Where have you been? The board is in an uproar. Blackwood is filing motions left and right. It's chaos." "I know, I just got back to the city. I've seen the court order. Can we meet first thing tomorrow? I need to understand what we're up against." "Of course, 8 a.m. at my office, but Olivia, I need to warn you, it's bad. The board is claiming you abandoned your post, that you're mentally unstable. Blackwood has been planting stories in the financial press. Your stock is taking a hit." Olivia closed her eyes, pain lancing through her. Her father had built Gray Agricultural Industries from nothing. The thought of it being damaged because of her actions was almost unbearable. "I'll fix this, Martin," she promised. Somehow. When she hung up, Eli was watching her with concern. "Bad news?" "Not unexpected." Olivia sighed. "Just confirmation that Charles has been busy while I've been away." She set her food aside, her appetite gone. "I'm meeting my lawyer in the morning. After that, I'll need to go to the office, face the board." "I'm coming with you," Eli said firmly. Olivia hesitated. "Are you sure it's going to be—" "What?" Eli raised an eyebrow. "Boring? Corporate? Full of people in fancy suits looking down their noses at me?" "All of the above," Olivia admitted. "I've faced down bulls and wild dogs protecting my livestock," Eli said with a shrug. "I think I can handle a few businessmen." His confidence made her smile. "Okay, but you'll need a suit." "A suit?" Eli looked horrified. "Why?" "Because appearances matter in my world, as stupid as that sounds," Olivia explained. "If you show up in jeans and work boots, they won't take you seriously, and by extension, they won't take me seriously for bringing you." Eli sighed dramatically. "The things I do for you, Olivia Gray." The use of her full name, spoken in his teasing drawl rather than Charles's cold tone, sent a warm shiver through her. "Consider it your disguise," she suggested. "Going undercover in the corporate world." "Fine," he conceded, "but nothing too fancy. And I draw the line at those skinny ties all the businessmen wear now." "Deal," Olivia laughed, feeling some of her tension ease. Even here, surrounded by reminders of the life she'd fled, Eli had the power to make her smile. Later that night, as she lay in her king-sized bed staring at the ceiling, Olivia found herself missing the sounds of the farm. The distant lowing of cattle, the rustle of wind in the trees, Rusty's occasional bark at something in the night. The city's constant hum felt alien now, the silence of her well-insulated penthouse too complete. A soft knock at her door drew her attention. "Olivia, you awake?" Eli's voice came through the door. "Come in," she called, sitting up. Eli opened the door, silhouetted against the hallway light. "Can't sleep?" "No," she admitted. "Too much on my mind." He crossed to the bed and sat on the edge, the mattress dipping under his weight. "Want to talk about it?" Olivia drew her knees to her chest. "I'm scared, Eli. What if I lose? What if Charles and the board take everything? Then you start over," Eli said simply. "You're smart, capable. You built a life once. You can do it again." "It wasn't me," Olivia reminded him. "It was my father who built the company." "And you ran it," Eli countered. "Successfully, from what I gather. That took skill." He reached for her hand in the darkness. "Besides, there's always a place for you at Miller Farm. The chickens, miss." "You already?" The offer, made so casually and sincerely, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. "You'd let me stay? Even if I lost everything? Even if I couldn't bring anything to the farm but myself?" In the dim light, she saw Eli's expression soften. "Olivia Gray, when are you going to understand? You're enough. Just you. Not your money. Not your company, not your fancy penthouse. Just you." The tears spilled over, then running down her cheeks. Eli gathered her into his arms, holding her as she cried out her fears and uncertainties. His steady heartbeat under her ear, the strength of his arms around her, gave Olivia a sense of security she hadn't felt since her father died. Perhaps not even then. When her tears subsided, she remained in his embrace, unwilling to break the connection between them. "Stay," she whispered. "Just hold me, please." Eli hesitated, then kicked off his shoes and stretched out beside her on the bed, keeping her cradled against his chest. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Wrapped in his warmth, Olivia finally drifted. To sleep, her last conscious thought a prayer that somehow they would find a way through the storm ahead. The law offices of Gardner, Phelps and Associates occupied 3 floors of a prestigious downtown building. Olivia led Eli through the imposing lobby, conscious of the curious glances they attracted, despite his new suit, a classic navy that the salesman had assured them would never go out of style. "You look good," she'd told him that morning as he hugged uncomfortably at the collar. "Very handsome. I feel like I'm playing dress-up," he'd grumbled, but she hadn't missed the pleased flush on his face at her compliment. Now, as they rode the elevator to the 43rd floor, Olivia mentally prepared for the meeting ahead. Martin Gardner had been her father's lawyer for decades and had helped Olivia navigate the transition after his death. If anyone could help them now, it was Martin. The receptionist recognized Olivia immediately. "Miss Gray, Mr. Gardner is expecting you." Her eyes lingered curiously on Eli, but she said nothing as she led them to a corner office with yet another impressive city view. Martin Gardner rose from behind his desk to greet them. In his 60s, with silver hair and shrewd eyes behind tortoise-shell glasses, he projected an air of competence that had always reassured Olivia. "Olivia, thank God you're back," he said, clasping her hands. "When you disappeared, I feared the worst. I needed some time, Martin," Olivia explained, "to think, to get perspective." She turned to introduce Eli. "This is Eli Miller. He's—" She hesitated, unsure how to describe their relationship. "A friend," Eli supplied, shaking Martin's hand firmly. "A good friend." Martin's eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded. "Please, sit. We have a lot to discuss." Over the next hour, Martin outlined the legal battle they faced. The board, led by Charles, had filed for a temporary injunction removing Olivia as CEO on grounds of mental instability and dereliction of duty. They had affidavits from concerned colleagues, documentation of Olivia's sudden departure, and were presenting it as an intervention for her own good. "They're painting you as a woman who cracked under pressure," Martin explained. "The stress of your father's death, the responsibility of the company, the engagement. They're suggesting it was all too much and you had some sort of breakdown." "That's ridiculous," Eli protested. "She's the strongest person I know." Martin's gaze shifted to Eli, assessing. "That may be, Mr. Miller, but perception matters in these cases. And the perception right now is that Olivia fled her responsibilities without explanation. So what do we do?" Olivia asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. Martin leaned forward. "We fight back. We present you as a woman who needed space to grieve properly, who took time to reconnect with her values and the agricultural roots of the company her father built." His eyes flicked to Eli. "Your friendship with Mr. Miller could actually work in our favor. A return to basics, understanding the farmers who are the backbone of Gray agricultural industries." Olivia felt a flicker of hope. "That's actually true. I've learned more about farming in the past month than in my entire life running an agricultural company." "Good," Martin nodded. "We use that. You weren't running away. You were gaining valuable perspective. Now you're back, refreshed, and ready to lead, with new insights that will benefit the company." For the first time since seeing Charles's court order, Olivia felt like she might have a chance. "And the merger? The engagement?" Martin grimaced. "That's trickier. The board is heavily invested in the merger with Blackwood, but legally they can't force you to marry anyone. That's absurd." "Tell that to Charles," Olivia muttered. "The hearing is in 3 days," Martin continued. "Until then, I suggest you go to the office. Show your face. Demonstrate that you're stable, competent, and ready to lead. Don't give them any more ammunition." As they left the law office, Eli took Olivia's hand. "You okay?" She nodded, squeezing his hand gratefully. "Better than I expected, actually. Martin thinks we have a case." "Of course you do," Eli said confidently. "You're fighting for what's right. That counts for something." His simple faith in her bolstered Olivia's courage. With Eli beside her, She felt ready to face whatever came next, even a confrontation with the board of Gray Agricultural Industries. But as they stepped into the elevator that would take them to the corporate headquarters, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning. Charles wouldn't give up easily, and he would use every weapon at his disposal to win. The question was, would Olivia's newfound strength be enough to withstand the storm? The Gray Agricultural Industries headquarters occupied the top 10 floors of a gleaming skyscraper in the heart of the financial district. As Olivia and Eli stepped into the lobby, heads turned. Word of her return had clearly spread. "Miss Gray!" The security guard at the desk jumped to his feet. "Welcome back." "Thank you, George," Olivia said with a smile. It felt strange to be back, like stepping into an old role in a play. She felt Eli tense beside her as they entered the executive elevator. "Nervous?" she asked quietly. "Aren't you?" he countered, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. "Terrified," Olivia admitted, "but having you here helps." When the elevator doors opened on the executive floor, Olivia's assistant Helen was waiting, practically bouncing with nervous energy. "Olivia!" "Oh, thank goodness!" Helen rushed forward, then stopped short when she noticed Eli. "Oh, hello, Helen. This is Eli Miller," Olivia introduced. "Eli, this is Helen Ryan, the best executive assistant in the business and the real person who runs this company." Helen blushed at the compliment, but her eyes remained curious as she shook Eli's hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Miller. Olivia, the board has called an emergency meeting. They're waiting in the conference room." "All of them?" Olivia asked, her stomach tightening. "Even Charles?" Helen nodded grimly. "Especially Mr. Blackwood. He's been practically running things since you've been gone." Olivia exchanged a glance with Eli. This was happening faster than they'd expected. "All right," she said, straightening her shoulders. "Let's not keep them waiting." As they walked toward the conference room, Eli leaned close. "Remember, you've got this. You're Olivia Gray. This is your company." His confidence steadied her. She was Olivia Gray, not just her father's daughter, not someone's fiancée, but her own person with her own strength. The month at Miller Farm had taught her that. The board members, 12 men and 2 women, all in expensive suits, fell silent as Olivia entered the conference room. Charles sat at the far end of the table, in the chair traditionally reserved. For the CEO, his message was clear. "Good morning," Olivia said calmly, moving to stand at the head of the table. "I apologize for my extended absence. I had some personal matters to attend to." "Personal matters?" Charles echoed with a cold smile. "Is that what we're calling a mental breakdown these days?" Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Olivia kept her expression neutral. "I assure you, my mental health is excellent. In fact, I've never had more clarity than I do right now." Her gaze swept the table, meeting each person's eyes. Some looked away guiltily. Others stared back with hostility. Her confusion. "You abandoned your post," said Richard Winters, one of her father's oldest friends on the board. "Without warning, without explanation. The company has been in turmoil." "I needed time," Olivia acknowledged. "Time to grieve my father properly, something I never got to do because I was thrown into running this company the day after his funeral. Time to reconnect with the roots of this business, agriculture, farming, the land." She gestured to Eli, who stood quietly by the door. "This is Eli Miller. He owns and operates a farm that has been in his family for generations. For the past month, I've been living and working on his farm, learning firsthand what our business is really about." Murmurs rippled around the table. Charles's expression darkened. "How quaint," he said dismissively. "But playing farmhand doesn't excuse abandoning your responsibilities. The board has already taken steps to have you removed as CEO. The hearing is in 3 days." "Yes, I'm aware," Olivia said, maintaining her composure. "But I'm here now, and I intend to fight for this company." "My company." "Your father's company," Charles corrected, "which you nearly ran into the ground." "That's not fair," Helen interjected from the doorway, then blushed when all eyes turned to her. "I'm sorry, but the quarterly reports show growth. Across all divisions, Miss Gray's leadership has been excellent." "Thank you, Helen," Olivia said gratefully. "I think we've heard enough," Charles declared, rising from his seat. "The board has already made its decision. This meeting was a courtesy to inform you that we'll be moving forward with the temporary injunction. Mr. Winters will serve as interim CEO until the court decides your fitness to lead. I don't accept that, Olivia said firmly. I am the majority, shareholder, and the rightful CEO of this company. A position you clearly don't value given how easily you abandoned it, Charles shot back. I think, Eli's deep voice came from the back of the room, drawing everyone's attention, that you all might want to hear what Olivia learned during her time away before making any decisions. The board members looked at him with varying degrees of curiosity and disdain. Charles's lip curled. And who exactly are you to advise this board, Mr. Miller? Eli supplied evenly. Just a farmer. But I know something about taking care of what matters, and from where I'm standing, this company could use some of that right now. His simple words seemed to resonate with several board members. Martha Chen, one of the few women on the board, spoke up. I'd like to hear what Miss Gray has to say. We owe her that much at least. With a nod of thanks to Martha, Olivia moved to the center of the room. My father built this company with a vision, to support farmers while bringing the best agricultural products to market. But somewhere along the way we lost sight of that vision. We became about profit margins and market share, not about the land and the people who work it. She paused, gathering her thoughts. My time on Eli's farm showed me what we've been missing. We've been making decisions in boardrooms that affect people in fields and barns without understanding their reality. I want to change that. For the next 20 minutes, Olivia outlined a new vision for Gray Agricultural Industries, one that prioritized sustainable farming practices, fair prices for farmers, and a return to the company's original values. As she spoke, she could see interest kindling in some of the board members' eyes. This isn't just idealism, she concluded. It's good business. Consumers care about where their food comes from now. They want sustainability, transparency. If we lead in this area, we'll capture that market and build loyalty that will last generations. When she finished, there was silence. Then Martha Chen spoke again. I think these are excellent ideas, Olivia. Fresh, forward-thinking, exactly what your father would have wanted. This is ridiculous, Charles interjected. We're not running a charity. The merger with Blackwood Enterprises is what this company needs. Scale, efficiency, market dominance. At what cost? Olivia challenged. Pushing small farmers out of business? Sacrificing quality for quantity? That's not what Gray Agricultural Industries stands for. The tension in the room was palpable as the two visions clashed. Finally, Richard Winters cleared his throat. I move that we postpone any decision until after we've had time to consider Miss Gray's proposals, he suggested. And perhaps we should also reconsider the motion to remove her as CEO. Seconded, Martha Chen said quickly. Charles slammed his hand on the table. This is a waste of time. The hearing is in 3 days. The court will decide. Perhaps, Richard agreed. But in the meantime, Olivia remains CEO, and I, for one, would like to hear more about these new directions. The meeting adjourned with tension still thick in the air. As the board members filed out, some stopped to speak quietly with Olivia, expressing interest in her ideas or simply welcoming her back. Charles stormed out without another word, his face dark with fury. When they were finally alone in the conference room, Olivia sagged against the table, the strain of maintaining her composure finally showing. You were amazing, Eli said, moving to her side. You had them listening, really listening. Some of them, Olivia agreed. But Charles won't give up, and he has influence with the court. Then we keep fighting, Eli said simply. One day at a time, Olivia smiled, drawing strength from his unwavering support. One day at a time. The next 2 days passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and preparation for the court hearing. Olivia worked tirelessly to build support among the board members, while Martin strategized their legal approach. Eli stayed by her side through it all, a steady presence in the chaos of corporate politics. Though he clearly felt out of place in the world of high finance, he offered insights that often cut straight to the heart of the matter, surprising the executives with his practical wisdom. He's quite something, your farmer, Martin commented. After one particularly productive strategy session, where Eli had suggested a simple solution to a complex problem. Yes, he is, Olivia agreed with a smile. On the evening before the hearing, Olivia and Eli returned to the penthouse exhausted but cautiously optimistic. They had secured the support of 8 board members, not a majority, but close. The outcome would depend on the judge's ruling tomorrow. "What happens if we lose?" Eli asked as they sat together on the balcony, watching the city lights come on below them. Olivia sighed. "Legally, I'll be removed as CEO. The board will appoint someone else, probably Richard Winters in the short term, but eventually someone aligned with Charles's vision. The merger will go through. And personally," Eli pressed gently, "I'll still have my shares, my inheritance," Olivia said. "I won't be destitute, if that's what you're asking." "It's not," Eli said. "I'm asking what you want. If you lose tomorrow, what then?" Olivia was quiet for a long moment, considering. A month ago, the thought of losing control of her father's company would have devastated her. Now she found herself weighing it against other things she valued. Peace, authenticity, love. "I'll be disappointed," she said finally. "I'll feel like I failed my father. But," she turned to face Eli, "I've realized there are other ways to honor his legacy, ways that don't require me to sacrifice my happiness." Eli took her hand. Such as living truthfully, following my heart." She squeezed his hand. "My father built Gray Agricultural Industries because he loved the land and wanted to support those who worked it. I think he'd understand if I chose to honor that love directly, rather than from a corner office." "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Eli asked, his blue eyes intent on hers. "I'm saying that win or lose tomorrow, I know where I want to be," Olivia said softly. "With you. On the farm. If you'll have me." Eli's face broke into a smile that took her breath away. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "I've been afraid to ask," he admitted. "Afraid you'd choose this." He gestured at the city around them. "Over what I can offer you." "What you offer me is more valuable than all of this," Olivia said. "You've shown me what it means to live with purpose, with integrity, to work with your hands and see the results of your labor, to care for the land and let it care for you in return." Eli cupped her face in his hands. "I love you, Olivia Gray. Have since about the second week when you insisted on naming all the chickens." Olivia laughed through the tears that suddenly filled her eyes. "I love you too, Eli Miller. Farm and all." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home. Like all the pieces of her life were finally falling into place. Whatever happened tomorrow, she had found what mattered most. The courtroom was packed. News of the hearing had leaked to the press, and the battle for control of Gray Agricultural Industries had become the business story of the week. Reporters lined the back wall, while the front rows were filled with board members, executives, and various interested parties. Charles sat with his legal team on one side of the aisle, projecting confidence. Olivia sat with Martin on the other, Eli a reassuring presence beside her. "All rise," the bailiff called as the judge entered. Judge Eleanor Reynolds was a formidable woman in her 60s, known for her no-nonsense approach and keen intellect. She surveyed the courtroom over her reading glasses, taking in the crowded gallery. "Let's get straight to the point," she said after the preliminaries were complete. "We are here to determine whether Olivia Gray should be temporarily removed as CEO of Gray Agricultural Industries on the grounds of mental instability and dereliction of duty. Mr. Blackwood's counsel will present first." Charles's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit, laid out their case methodically. Olivia had disappeared without warning, abandoning her responsibilities during a critical period. Her behavior was erratic, concerning. The board had a duty to protect the company from her instability. As evidence, he presented affidavits from concerned colleagues, documentation of meetings Olivia had missed, and financial reports showing market uncertainty during her absence. "Miss Gray's actions demonstrate that she is not currently fit to lead this company," he concluded. "We ask the court to grant the temporary injunction for the protection of Gray Agricultural Industries, its shareholders, and Miss Gray herself." When it was Martin's turn, he approached the matter differently. "Your Honor, this case is not about mental health or corporate responsibility. It's about control and coercion." He outlined how Charles Blackwood had pressured Olivia into an engagement she didn't want, as part of a merger deal that benefited him more than Gray Agricultural Industries. When Olivia chose to step back and reevaluate, he retaliated by attempting to seize control of her company. Miss Gray did not abandon her duties, Martin argued. She took necessary time to gain perspective on the business her father built, a business rooted in agriculture. She spent that time working on a farm, learning firsthand about the agricultural practices that are the foundation of Gray Agricultural Industries. He presented statements from the supportive board members, along with the company's strong financial performance under Olivia's leadership. Far from being unstable, Miss Gray has shown remarkable clarity of vision. She returned to the company with fresh insights and innovative proposals that have excited many on the board. As Martin concluded, Judge Reynolds removed her glasses thoughtfully. "I'd like to hear from Miss Gray herself," she said. Olivia rose and moved to the witness stand. After being sworn in, she faced the judge directly. "Miss Gray," Judge Reynolds began, "in your own words, please explain your actions over the past month." Olivia took a deep breath. "After my father died, I was immediately thrust into running his company. I had no time to grieve, to process, to consider what kind of leader I wanted to be. When the board proposed the merger with Blackwood Enterprises and the engagement to Charles Blackwood that came with it, I felt trapped." She glanced at Eli, drawing strength from his presence. "I needed space to think clearly, to reconnect with what matters. So I left. It wasn't planned. It was an act of self-preservation." "And where did you go?" the judge asked. "I ended up at Miller Farm," Olivia said with a small smile. "Where Eli Miller took me in, gave me shelter during a storm. And over the next month, as I worked alongside him, I learned more about farming, the actual work our company is built on, than I had in years in the executive suite." Judge Reynolds regarded her thoughtfully. "Some might see that as irresponsible, given your position." "I understand that perception," Olivia acknowledged, "but I believe it made me a better leader. How can I make decisions that affect farmers' livelihoods without understanding their reality? How can I honor my father's legacy without connecting to the values that drove him?" The judge turned to Charles's lawyer. "Does the petitioner wish to cross-examine?" "Absolutely, Your Honor." Charles's lawyer approached with a predatory smile. "Miss Gray, isn't it true that you left without telling anyone where you were going? Without appointing anyone to act in your absence?" "Yes," Olivia admitted. "And isn't it true that you were engaged to Mr. Blackwood at the time of your departure?" "The engagement was announced, yes." "So you not only abandoned your company, but also your fiancé, without explanation, without warning." The lawyer's tone suggested this was damning evidence of instability. Olivia refused to be baited. "I left a situation that was harmful to me. I took time to gain clarity. When I returned, I was in a better position to lead with integrity." The questioning continued, growing increasingly hostile. The lawyer tried to paint Olivia as flighty, irresponsible, guided by emotion rather than reason. But with each answer, she remained poised and thoughtful. Finally, the judge raised her hand. "I believe I've heard enough." She surveyed the courtroom, her expression grave. "This is not a simple case. On one hand, we have a CEO who left her post without warning. On the other, we have what appears to be a calculated attempt to seize control of a company through questionable means." She shuffled her papers, then looked directly at Olivia. "Miss Gray, what would you say to shareholders who are concerned about your commitment to this company?" Olivia stood tall. "I would say that I am more committed than ever to the true spirit of Gray Agricultural Industries. My father built this company to support farmers while bringing quality products to market. I intend to honor that vision, not compromise it for short-term gain." Judge Reynolds nodded, then addressed the court. "I am prepared to rule on this matter. While Miss Gray's actions were unorthodox, I see no evidence of mental instability. Rather, I see a leader who recognized the need to reconnect with the core values of her business. The petition for temporary removal is denied." Relief washed over Olivia. Eli squeezed her hand, his smile radiant with pride. "However," the judge continued, "I would advise Miss Gray to establish clearer protocols for any future absences. A company of this size cannot be left rudderless regardless of the personal growth the CEO may be experiencing. Yes, Your Honor, Olivia agreed. I understand. As the court adjourned, reporters rushed forward clamoring for statements. Martin fielded their questions expertly, while Olivia and Eli slipped out a side door, seeking a moment of privacy. We won, Olivia breathed, still hardly believing it. You won, Eli corrected, pulling her into his arms. You were incredible in there. Over Eli's shoulder, Olivia saw Charles striding toward them, his face a mask of fury. This isn't over, Olivia, he spat. The merger is off the table, Olivia cut in firmly. Grey Agricultural Industries is not for sale, Charles. Not to you, not to anyone. You'll regret this, he threatened. You can't run this company without me. Actually, I think she just proved she can, Eli interjected mildly. Charles's gaze flicked to Eli with contempt. Enjoy your victory while it lasts, farmer. She'll tire of playing peasant eventually. Women like Olivia always do. Women like me? Olivia echoed. You never knew me at all, Charles. That was your mistake. Charles opened his mouth to respond, but at that moment, several reporters rounded the corner, cameras flashing. Charles composed, himself instantly, years of media training taking over. No further comment, he said curtly, before turning on his heel and stalking away. Olivia watched him go, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The battle was won, the company was safe, and her heart was free. 6 months later, Olivia stood on the porch of the farmhouse, watching the sunset paint the fields in gold. The farm had changed in subtle ways since she'd officially moved in. New curtains in the windows, a vegetable garden twice the size of the original, a fresh coat of paint on the barn. Inside, the farmhouse was filled with voices and laughter. The board members of Grey Agricultural Industries, those who had supported her during the crisis, were gathered for a weekend retreat. It had become a quarterly tradition, bringing the executives out of their offices and onto the land, connecting them with the farmers who were the backbone of their business. Eli emerged from the barn, Rusty at his heels, and crossed the yard to join her. His smile, still as heart-stopping as the first time she'd seen it, was tender as he wrapped an arm around her waist. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I was just thinking how much has changed," Olivia replied, leaning into him. "And how much has stayed the same?" In the month since the hearing, she had restructured Grey Agricultural Industries, implementing the vision she'd outlined to the board. The company now worked more directly with farmers, investing in sustainable practices and fair trade. Profits were strong, shareholder confidence was high, and Olivia had never felt more fulfilled in her leadership role, but the biggest change was in her personal life. She split her time between the city and the farm, maintaining her role as CEO while building a life with Eli. They were partners in every sense, supporting each other's work, sharing responsibilities, planning a future together. Any regrets? Eli asked, his blue eyes searching hers. Olivia shook her head. Not one, you? Only that it took a storm to bring you to me, he replied with a smile. I should have been looking for you all along. From inside came the sound of a glass clinking for attention. I think Martha's about to make her toast, Olivia said. We should go in. In a minute, Eli said, turning to face her fully. There's something I want to ask you first. He took both her hands in his expression suddenly serious. Olivia Grey, you blew into my life like that storm 6 months ago, and nothing's been the same since. You brought light and laughter back to this old farmhouse. You stood up for what you believed in even when it was hard. You chose this life, our life, when you could have had anything in the world. Eli dropped to one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, not a flashy diamond like Charles had given her, but a simple band of silver with a small emerald that matched her eyes. I love you, Olivia, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Will you marry me? Not for a merger or a business deal, but because we belong. Together? Tears of joy spilled down Olivia's cheeks. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. As Eli slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to kiss her, Olivia felt a sense of rightness, of coming full circle. She had fled one engagement, only to find herself accepting another, but this time with a man who loved her for herself, not for what she could bring him. Inside, their friends waited to celebrate the latest success of Gray Agricultural Industries. But here on the porch, with the sun setting on another day of the life they were building together, Olivia and Eli celebrated something far more precious, the love that had saved them both. The storm that had once driven her to his door had long passed, but the winds of change it brought had guided Olivia Gray exactly where she needed to be, in the arms of a farmer who had seen past her wealth to the woman beneath and loved her just as she was. And in that love, Olivia had found her true home.